While Star Trek is actually set in outer space, it has always been an exploration of our nature as human beings. Our thoughts, emotions, memories, aspirations, what are they and what do they really mean? Advaita Vedanta is a set of teachings that came to us from India and provides clear answers to these questions and many more. This YouTube channel looks at how the wisdom found in Vedanta is dramatized and illustrated in Star Trek. On a routine scientific mission, the Enterprise determines that Comet C-2260 Quentin is on a collision course with an inhabited planet with millions of people. They fire some photon torpedoes to divert its course, but the comet defends itself with a force field. Clearly, it is no ordinary comet. The landing party beams over and discovers a large egg-shaped device in a room with breathable air. Meanwhile, an alien spacecraft appears out of nowhere and fires on the Enterprise. On the view screen, the alien commander identifies their race as the Shepherds, whose purpose it is to protect Mahanit, the comet, as it spreads life throughout the universe. Captain Pike explains that their intentions are not hostile. The Enterprise merely meant to alter Mahanit's trajectory to avoid the planetary collision. The alien commander responds, "Absurd. Would you adjust the height of the waves or the position of the stars? Mahanit's course is preordained. Please entertain the proposition, Captain, that Mahanit is not a comet. It is an instrument, an ancient arbiter. If it is his will to move, he will move. If it is his will to bring life, he will bring life. If Mahanit wills the planet to die, even chooses to die with it, then that is what will happen. It is preordained." In the West, we often debate the concepts of free will and predestination. Free will is the idea that we can make choices between two or more courses of action unimpeded by outside forces. Predestination is a theological concept that posits that all events have been willed by God, including the fate of individual souls. To understand what Advaita Vedanta has to say about these questions, let's start with a metaphor. Consider all that is, everything that exists, as a vast, limitless, infinite ocean made of water. You can substitute the words Brahman or God for all that is, or any other synonymous word or phrase, such as universal consciousness. Since we exist, we must also be a part of this vast ocean of existence, as to be separate and apart from it would mean that this total reality was not complete. Our birth, or incarnation into a physical body, is analogous to the formation of a wave on the ocean's surface. This wave can be identified as a particular form with size and shape, but notice that one cannot really find a boundary between the wave and the rest of the ocean. It is all just water, continuous and connected to all other water, which extends without limits in all directions. Water is the substance out of which everything is made that is made. The day-to-day world is analogous to the ocean's surface, sometimes smooth, other times whipped up by a storm, churning, frothy, with currents and eddies constantly forming and dissolving. Like the so-called material world, none of these forms are permanent. They are temporary, coming and going in a never-ending cycle of inception, course, and resolution. Similarly, we emerge at the surface of this ocean when we are born as a brand new wave made of water. Our size, shape, speed, and direction change over our lifetime depending on our own earthly makeup and the environment in which we find ourselves. In this view, death is simply the natural absorption of our wave back into the ocean of universal consciousness, that from which we came. Notice that this unbounded, limitless ocean must include the totality of what we commonly call the past, present, and future. How could it not? All that is all that is. God is God. There is no such thing as a past, all there is, a present, all there is, and a future, all there is. In human form, we always experience the waking world from a single moment in time, something we call the present. For us, the past and future are merely concepts in the mind, helping us avoid yesterday's mistakes and plan ahead. Indeed, the past and future are very useful concepts, perhaps the most practical ideas of all. Nevertheless, they remain just ideas in the mind. From the point of view of the entire ocean, however, all points in time exist simultaneously. Physicists have coined this truth eternalism, the idea that all moments in time are equally real. Occasionally, the water which corresponds to a future event gets mixed up with the water representing a person, leading to what we call a premonition. We are fortunate that this does not happen more often, or we would be so distracted that it would be difficult to live our daily lives. Notice how Captain Pike's vision of the future has complicated his life. Thus, Advaita Vedanta solves the question of predestination as the idea that we continue as isolated individual souls after death has no reality. Vedanta also solves the question of free will, though this will involve a little more explanation. First, consider a simple, everyday object like a clay pot. It is a useful item to store things in. This is a true statement. Yet, we can also make other statements that are true, like it is made from clay, or it consists of a variety of atoms, or it is ultimately constructed out of quarks and electrons. Consider, when we pick up a pot in order to store something, is it useful to think about it as a collection of atoms or a simple pot? You can see that its atomic reality is really irrelevant when it comes to the everyday world. Similarly, when we picture ourselves as a wave on the surface of the turbulent ocean, is it useful in solving our problems to simply say, reality is all made from one and the same ocean of water? No, of course not. This reality should always be kept in mind, but we cannot ignore the details of the here and now. As creatures, we have much to tend to each and every day, our basic needs and much more. So, ask yourself this question. Is it my experience that we as people have free will? Speaking for myself, the answer is yes, and I've yet to meet somebody who responds in the negative. Here is one of the stunning truths of Advaita Vedanta. We have free will because it is your experience that we have free will. In Vedanta, there are no beliefs, no dogma. There simply are teachings. We hear the teachings, then decide for ourselves, based on our experience, whether or not they are true. Once we make this decision, Vedanta has ways to help restructure the mind so these truths eventually become second nature. While we do listen to the opinions of theologians and philosophers, we always turn to our own experience as the final arbiter of truth. At the level of the day-to-day world, we do indeed have free will and are accountable to each other for our decisions and behavior. So, what happens to the question of free will at the ocean's depths? The answer really does not change. Rather, the entire question itself dissolves and eventually vanishes. The landing party is trapped on the comet until they discover that it responds to music. It even sings to them. When they build a major musical chord using their voices, the comet lowers its shields, allowing Captain Pike to beam the crew back to the Enterprise. This upsets the shepherds, who fire on the ship and pursue it as it executes evasive maneuvers. With the shepherds distracted, Mr. Spock uses a shuttlecraft to split the comet into pieces and alter its course. However, a large chunk of it, made of water, enters the planet's atmosphere, bringing new life, agriculture, and eventually society. The shepherds and the Enterprise crew have witnessed a miracle together and part as friends. Lieutenant Uhura decodes the song that they recorded when the comet was singing to them. It contained the comet's flight path, including the shape of the chunk of water that arose directly from Mr. Spock's intervention. So, the entire conflict between the shepherds and the Enterprise was already known at some level by universal consciousness. Indeed, it was all preordained. Music is indeed at the foundation of our physical universe. I have a very special video planned in which I lay out in detail how this works. For now, please go back and re-listen to the opening sequence of this video. It starts with the bass note of the musical key, called the tonic, maintaining it for a full 2 measures. Then the major third joins in for 8 more beats until that beautiful, perfect fifth finally arrives. Indeed, the major chord is everywhere. It represents happiness, triumph, and other things. For now, let's return to the metaphor of all that is represented by a vast, unbounded ocean. It is no longer surprising that Mr. Spock's flight path, nor any of the actions we take in our daily life, are preordained in the Western way of thinking. Notice, too, that Advaita Vedanta provides the ultimate answer to understanding what quantum physicists call the double-slit experiment. The entire physical setup of any double-slit experiment is just part of the vast ocean of existence. While we experience the universe one moment at a time, it is all part of a single whole. Wrapping up, I cannot overstate the quality and depth of the first 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds. If the production team keeps it up, this new Star Trek series has the potential to be one of the greatest shows of all time.